Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Before starting my video, if you didn't subscribe my channel yet, please do, and do not forget to turn on notifications because I'm here every day for you. Okay, in this video I'm going to start to show you how we are going to use routing system, how we able to manipulate them, and how we able to create custom routing systems. Alright, let's start with the preparation. I'm going to create a new project because it's a lot of controllers and a lot of data in initial start project. Right click on solution, add new project, and it's going to be MVC. Let's next. Let's say routing. Continue. Next. Great. Perfect. All right. Now I am going to set a startup project routing, and I'm going to scope to this. Where's my scope to this? Okay, I focused on routing project. Alright guys, let's talk about routing explanation. Let's open our program CS file. If you remember our previous lesson, we already talked about MapControllerRoute section, if you remember, right? And we have here a use routing middleware. So what is use routing? What is that MapControllerRoute? We're going to go through step by step both of them. Alright guys, let's start with the explanation and examples. Alright, just imagine a user open their, let me make it bigger, a user open their browser, let's say Chrome, and they're going to enter a web page address to their address bar, www. For example, some website.com. Alright, once user enter the address bar, once the user send the request to the server, user routing middleware will be initialized. Alright? Of course, MapControllerRoute will be initialized as well. As you can see, we didn't enter any parameter. We just entered the base address. Okay? According to the project, if there is a default route like this, for example, if controller and action empty, it is going to be directed to home and index automatically. Let's continue with our default control route example. Okay, let's type here, for example, personal, and let's say get all personals. Yeah, let's say this is our request. All right, just consider this is our request. Our routing is going to take the parameters one by one. Okay, this one and this one are two parameters, and our application going to check our map controller route. What is our pattern is? This is controller run action. So our application going to run personal controller and then initialize get all personals action. This is how it's going to work. If there is no such a personal controller or get all personal action, we're going to get an error message. This is how we're working. Basically, use routing takes the request and takes the parameters and match these parameters to our map controller route. This is how it's working basically. Alright. Keep it, let's keep this here and let's continue our map controller route a little bit. Okay. As you can see, we have a default map controller route here. Okay. Once we create our MVC template, our map controller route initialized, but we also have map default controller route as well. Let's have a look. As you can see, this is our default route and it is exactly the same, comes as a default. So it means you can use both of them, but this is more custom, more customized type, I can say basically. I'm going to continue with default route. Okay, let's run the application. Let's run the application. You're going to see we don't get any error. As you can see, localhost 7153 is initialized. This is our home page, by the way. So why it is initialized? Why our home page initialized even we didn't any controller action name? That's because if it's empty, home and index going to be default route. You can either type both of them or um, leave it empty. Both of them is okay. Okay, let's open our page. If I type here home again, just home, as you can see, nothing has been changed because I gave home controller for the controller section, but action I sent null. But if it's null, the default is index anyway. Let's type here both of them. If I send just base address slash, okay, let's type base address www some site.com. Okay, if I send like that, default parameters will be initialized. All right, if I send www.somesite.com, for example, home, we already have home controller anyway, but I sent the action parameter null. It means default action parameters will be initialized. All right. If I type index as well, perfect. There is no problem at all. I already gave my default route, so it's working anyway. So if I type something else here, for example, get all products, then we're going to get 404 error message because our controller doesn't have any action method called get all products. All right, this is how it's working. All right, how can I customize my controller route then? You want to use action first, controller name, then maybe ID middle of both of them. You can use whatever you want, but how can you customize your controller route? Okay, let me command section our map default controller route and reactivate our map controller route section. As you can see, this is our pattern. I'm just going to change my parameters here. For example, let's take action index. What's gonna happen then? It means our action comes first, then controller name comes. Let's run the application. Okay, as you can, if you remember previous example, we type here home, but now it's not gonna work because it is looking home action, which is didn't exist. So our action name is index. As you can see, index action method initialized. What happened to home? Home come as a default because we sent empty. All right, this is how it's working. We sent our address using by address bar as a request. All right, our use routing take our request, take the parameters, and it is mapping, it maps with our map controller route. If it's matching, no problem. If it's not, you're going to get the error message. All right, let's continue more customize our map controller route. If you would like to add one more route, let's copy this section. Let's make this section command. Okay, let's add another one. Okay, this is our default route again. We still have only one route. We can have many routes, but let's finish the single route, then we can add or we can multiply our routes. Okay, what if I would like to add some static page here? So it means you have to add a static page in your routes. This is unnecessary and you shouldn't do that, by the way, but I'm just trying to give you an example. Okay, everything you customize in your route, you have to add for a reason. As you can see, once we initialized, it collapsed. It's not cannot find anything because we couldn't send um, any static page. But if I type here index some static page and home, it will be initialized again because our route now index some static page and home, as you can see. All right, perfect. All right, I assume you understand how you can manipulate your routing much more easily. All right, let's continue as a little bit step forward. But before that, I would like to talk a little bit what is this action, controller, and ID parameters. Okay, let me add here action and controller. We can say basically these two parameters predefined by the structure, by the architecture of our project. Okay, so once we use our action or architecture in our curly brackets controller, the system, the structure understand these parameters is going to be matched with the controller run action automatically. Okay, match automatically with our controllers and actions. But it's not same with for the this ID. This ID doesn't mean anything. All right, doesn't match anything. It's a very specified custom parameter. All right. If you send a parameter to your application using root, it is going to catch by ID section, but it is not going to match with something in your project. Okay. Other parameters won't be match anything in your app. All right, like ID. Let's move forward with more complicated route customizations. Okay, I'm going to go back my default one. Let's activate it. Okay, now I'm going to give a pattern name instead of parameters. All right, let's delete them. Let's give a pattern name, for example, let's say test. All right, let's say test, and let's put a comma here. Oops, it's my bad. We need to delete this bracket. Okay, let's put a comma. Let's have a look our parameters need for MapControllerRoute. For example, first of all is name, which is default. The second one is pattern. We give a pattern name instead of a pattern as a test. Now I'm going to give object. If you remember our action link or URL link lessons, at the beginning of this playlist. Now we're going to use controller and index name. Okay, let's create a new object and we're going to give parameter names. Controller will be home, comma, and action will be index. Perfect. Is there anything else should I add? Let's put our bracket. Perfect. So our new controller is the same again, map default controller route, but this time I gave a pattern name. So what is that pattern name for? If I would like to hide my um, link, I can use pattern name. All right, let's try to run our application. All right. Okay. Let's type here test. As you can see, it came automatically. There is no link written here. Let's try to type home and index. Why it's not working, by the way, home index. Let me have a look quickly. Test is working. Because our pattern is exactly test. You can't type home index, right? This is why we couldn't get. You have to type test manually. All right. If I activate my default controller route as well, now we have multiple route. It is going to have a look this one first. If it's not working, then our routing going to check the second route then. All right, let's see the result. As you can see, the second route initialized, and now I'm going to run first route using test pattern name. It is working again. Perfect. I assume you understand. That's why I try to run this route alone to see that error message. Okay, now we have two different routes and our use routing middleware checking the first one and the second one. Okay, perfect. I assume you understand how we are using. I'm going to give another example. Let's go our view. I'm going to create a link here for test purpose. ASP controller. Let's say home and ASP action. Say index. Perfect. And let's say one more. I'm going to give a name here. Let's say home page. Okay. And now I'm going to give another link which is for a fake address because we we won't going to have this controller name. Oops, controller random. Okay, we don't have this controller. ASP action test. All right, let's say this test page. Let's run the application and see what kind of link we going to create. Let's have a look home page first. Guys, have a look the bottom of page. As you can see, localhost 7153 test has been created. Let's have a look at the other one. The other one is random and test. Because the first one is using the first route, the second one is using second route. Alright, I assume you understand how we are customizing and manipulating our routes. Alright, now I'm going to comment this section. Let's get back. Actually, I deleted my default one, right? Let's edit here. MapControllerRoute. Alright, let's say name is going to be default, and you can give your name how would you like to do it, by the way. Okay, I still have my, yeah, perfect. Alright, let me have a look. Is there anything should I tell you? Oh, this is the old one. Let's take this action, put it here. Alright, perfect. If you are using multiple routes, guys, always the general one has to be the last one, and more specific one has to be located the top one. Alright, like this one. If you would like to add some specific routing system, it has to be always upside. Alright, perfect. Let's continue customize the ID parameter. Alright, let me give you an example. I'm gonna use my board. Where's my text? Alright. Let's say we send a request to any server, some website.com slash. We are using our default controller route, let's say, okay. We're going to send home, or let's say we're going to say the request to personal controller. Just imagine we already have personal controller, okay, and we send get by ID, okay, and I'm going to send parameter 5, for example. If our variable is an integer, we can send 5, or we can send string value, it doesn't matter, okay. This is, guys, let me, oops, not you, let me take my pen. This 5 variable is matching with the ID parameter located in our route. Oops, I'm using the wrong place. Here we go. Okay, perfect. This is exactly matching in our route with ID parameter. As you can see, we have a question mark here. What if I remove that question mark from my controller? If I remove it, it is going to expecting give an ID 100%. Okay, let's comment this section. Let's remove the question mark and run the application, and we're going to get an error message here. Yep, the page can't be found because we are trying to send index, but our route looking for us expecting send an ID, right? Let's try to send an ID now, just random one. It is going to work. Why it is working? Because we send a parameter. If we put a question mark here, we are marking this ID as a nullable. Alright, I assume you understand how we are manipulating ID parameters, and also you can add as much as parameter you can, okay. For example, X, for example, K, for example, Z. Alright, and if you didn't put any nullable, you're going to be expected to enter a data on your route. Let's run the application again. As usual, we're going to get, we have an error message. Okay, let's try to add our parameters. Okay, index, still error message because we need to add some parameter. Okay, let's 5 random text, that's 6. As you can see, we're still expecting another one because even it's nullable, the first data match with the first one. So we need to add one more, just random data. As you can see, there are 4 parameters and here 4 parameter and 4 parameter is going to match exactly. If you would like to add nullable, it has to be start from the end. Okay. For example, let's assign these two as a nullable. Okay, run. Because it is starting matching from the first section, first parameter. Yeah, let's say home and index. Let's say 55 and FH. As you can see, the first two is matched and the second two is nullable, so we don't need to send any data in our route. I assume you understand how we adding parameters and how we manipulate when it comes to creating our routes. Alright, now let's move on constraints. We can add constraints our parameters, guys. Let me show you. To add one constraint, put this sign and you will able to see all the list. You can apply a constraint to your parameter. For example, if you would like your ID parameter exactly to be integer, mark with the int. Okay. If you would like to add another constraint, put another one and just say, for example, maximum, let's say 5. All right. Let's run the application and see is it going to work or not. Right. Okay, run. First of all, I'm going to send a string value for the ID. All right. I'm gonna send a string value. As you can see, I sent AASD for ID. We get an error message. Now I'm going to send 55. I have another error message because it is bigger than 5. I'm gonna send 4. Our page initialized. This is how we add constraints to our route parameters. Okay, let's have a look a little bit more. And as you can see, there is length, long, minimum length. There is a lot of things located here. You can. I'm not gonna show all of them, but you can try on yourself, or you can have a look from the internet, or you can ask ChatGPT. These are easy information to find out from internet. All right, let's me have a look. Is there any? I was looking for string. You can use date, time, float, quit, integer. I'm gonna type string here. String. String is not written here, but yeah, we can use string. Interesting. Okay, if I would like to want my um exactly string, why it is really sense. Why don't we have any string here? If you didn't type anything, it's going to be string anyway. If you type a number anyway, it's going to be string, I assume. Okay, let me try. Let's stop it. Let's try to catch X as a string, but I'm going to give a number. All right. All right. String is not working. We understand the long way because this is not located in the list. All right. I'm going to add, for example, max length. Let's say 5 again. It is normal. String is not accepted because it's accepting as a string normally. If you didn't any add constraint, it is going to be string automatically. Okay, the first one is an integer smaller than 5. The second one, max length, is going to be 5, right? It's not working again. Yep. Let's make it 5. 5 is working. I type here a integer number. Why? It is accepting them because the default it is taking string. Okay, that's why once we type string constraint we get error message. Okay, I assume you understand how we add constraint in our route, guys. Now I'm going to show you how we can add custom constraint. To do that, let's add a new class because we need to define our custom constraint. Where is my add class custom constraints? Yep, custom constraint. We're going to inheritance from I root constraint. Let's implement our interface. Okay, I'm going to explain everything what we have here as a parameter, but before that I would like to show you the trigger, which one is going to be triggered first, the controller or the root. So I'm going to put some breakpoints here, but as a logic, um, we are checking our roots, right? We're going to check our roots are correct format or not. So before initialize, before trigger the controller, we have to check our root is correct format or not. So our routing custom constraint going to be initialized first, and then controller will be triggered. Okay, let's go to controller. Okay, we already have breakpoint here. Let's go our program CS file. Now we're going to add our custom constraint to our services. Builder, services, configure. What we're going to configure? I route options or collections. I route constraint again. Yeah. Let's add our. I'm not gonna add any I configuration. I'm going to add. Yeah, I'm going to add I route constraint, and I'm going to use action delegate for it. Options. Must be string. Where is the all right, it must be here. If am I missing something? Okay, let's delete this section and let's have a check. Is that correct? Root options. Yeah, it must be root options. All right, let's have a look our configurations again. Okay, action delegate accepting again. Let's options. Perfect. Yeah, constraint map. This is what I'm looking for. We're going to add a constraint map, guys. We're going to add it. Add. What we're going to add, it is asking us a string and a type. So if you remember, we adding some names, integer, max, length. We're going to give the constraint name here. Let's say custom. All right. So it is asking us the type, which is going to be custom constraint type. Let's say type of custom constraint. Perfect. This is how it's going to be. Did we forget a bracket here? 1, 2, 1, 3. Yeah, one more. All right. Okay. Now we defined our custom constraint to our service. Now we're able to use it now. Okay. Let's add our custom for the K parameter, and I'm going to add here custom. All right. Let's run the application and see is it going to be triggered or not. I'm just waiting. All right, let's add our home index 55 FG. Probably it's not gonna work. What was our constraint is 3. The second max length is going to be FG is okay, and slash the third one, let's say random 5. As you can see, our custom constraint has been triggered just before the controller. Let's continue. Next one is the controller. This is how it's working, guys. Alright, let's stop the application and add a constraint, add a logic our constraint. But before that, I forgot to show you something. I'm going to show you what kind of information we have here. So we need to know, right? If we would like to add some logic, we need to know what kind of information, what kind of data coming from our parameters. Let's make a little bit tidy. Run the application one more time. Let's send our request again. And let's say KJH. It's not working. Why it's not working? No, it's not working. What's the problem? Oh, all right. It is. We can't use 55, right? It has to be 3 and random text. Perfect. Let's have a look at our parameters. This is our HTTP context. We talked about HTTP context before. This is the heart of our application. You will able to access everything using HTTP context. Features, items, request, response, everything, guys. All right. I route to route. Let's have a look what kind of information we have. It seems static members. It seems nothing. Okay, leave it like that. What about root K? Root K is K. Let's have a look. Our root K. Let's have a look to values. We have 5 value. Yeah, perfect. Root value K comes from here, guys. This is K. Alright, perfect. Let's come back constraint again. The root K is K and the value comes from our user HJK for K and 3 for ID, index for action, home for controller. Route direction, okay, this is incoming request. The direction is telling us this is an incoming request. Okay, so we can add logic here. Okay, let's say if, but before that, let's have a look our values. Okay, var required value. Okay, the required value will be, I'm going to use index here. The index comes from our root K, right? So I'm going to use this root K to get my value, which is going to be HJK, and I'm going to convert it to string. Now I'm going to add my logic step by step. Var is integer. I'm going to check this value is integer or not. To do that, int try parse. It is asking us a string which is going to be required value. Okay, if it is let me have a look. If it's integer, it will be assigned to the result, and if it's not, this is going to be false. Okay, if is integer, true, return true. Okay, if it is false, if it is false, it is going to be return false. You can add more logic, by the way. For example, if it is true, let's go inside. Let's do, for example, let's add if result smaller than 5 and result bigger than 2, return true, otherwise it is going to be false. Alright, this is um, example logic. Okay, let's try, is it going to work or not? I'm going to put a breakpoint here. Let's see, is it going to work or not, guys? Okay, let's home index. The first one was 3 FG. What was our root? The third one is, let's add a string value first. Okay, let's add it and see the result. F11 required value, as you can see, this is random data which I type to our address bar. Is integer comes false. If it's false, it is going to be return false. Let's see the result now. We're going to get error message. Let's send a 55. As you can see, this is our value. The return is true. Now we are inside if scopes and we are check, is it smaller than 5 and bigger than 2? No, this is returning false again. Let's continue. Perfect. Let's type here 4 and I'm doing quickly. We are in our if scopes and we're going to return true. Let's continue. We are in our action method. As you can see, let's run. Yeah, here we go. We got the final result. All right, I'm going to stop the application. Let's remove the breakpoints. Home controller, where is my, yeah. Let's go back our program CS file. I assume you understand how we add our custom route constraints, guys. Now I'm going to show you how we can add our routes in our controller. To do that, I'm going to all of them, command line, and I am going to add just map. What's happening here? App dot, yep, map controller, map controllers. All right, perfect. We didn't assign any routes in our program CS file. We only telling our program CS file, I am going to add my route in my controller, adding by this middleware. Okay, let's go back to our controller. I'm going route attribute. You know how we able to add our routes anyway. All we need to do, use our existing knowledge. Okay, open brackets. As you can see, it is asking you template. Everything is same, just a little bit, just there is a little bit difference. For example, we are not using curly brackets for predefined parameters like action and controller. We're using square brackets, controller, right, and action. Let's add our default parameter. We are using curly brackets again for our non-predefined parameters. Okay. Controller action, I told you before, they are predefined parameters. We are using square brackets, and the other parameters we are still using curly brackets. Okay. Let's run the application and let's see the result. But you have to use this routing for all of your pages. Okay, let's home index. Let's enter. It's not working. Did I something wrong here? Let me have a look quickly. Controller action ID. So we have home and index. Let's get back our program CS file. We add our map controllers. Add endpoints for controller actions and without any specifying any routes. It must be run. Why we have error message here? Okay. Let me think a little bit. This is our root, controller action and ID. Let's get back our page. Controller and action. Oh, I forgot to add nullable to action section. Sorry, ID parameter. That's why we receive error message. Now run the application one more time. This is exactly same our default route home index. Here we go. This is working as usual. All right, let's minimize it. Let's stop the application. Everything is same. If you would like to add any constraint, you can add it. For example, float or integer. It's all up to you guys. Okay. If you would like to give a specific name for home controller, just delete it. Let's give a custom name. All right. Let's run the application. Let's have a look. ID, the root parameter name ID is invalid. Root parameter must be in an applicant. There is a problem here. Okay. Root issue. The root parameter ID is invalid. Okay. We couldn't give our. So let's add like this. Okay. Oh yeah. We need to add nullable mark at the end of the whole parameter. Okay, that's why we receive an. It's really good to see this error, by the way. Perfect. Let's try one more time. Let's go our, instead of home, we are using custom, right? Let's custom index. Here we go. As you can see, we still in our home page using custom. All right, so you can define a specific name for your controllers. Of course, you can add for actions as well, but to do that, I'm going to delete all of them. Now, I'm going to define routes for each action. Let's come to index, add route. If you would like to add the name of action, all you need to do is the same. We're just dividing, guys. We have a route, we are dividing these routes to controller and to action. Okay. Oops, we didn't add our double quotes. Okay, action. If you receiving any parameter, you can add again with your constraint. Okay, all you need to do is add here int ID, for example. Perfect. Also, you can give a specific name. Why we have error here? We forget our brackets. Let's add another route to our privacy route. Now I'm going to give a specific name. Let's say random. Perfect. Let's add, if you would like to add a parameter, the same rule applies, guys. Now I'm not gonna add any parameter here. All right, let's run the application and see the result. What we're going to have once we click our index and privacy section. The name of our control is custom and index. Custom and index is working because it's using its action name. What if I go to privacy? As you can see, custom and random. Custom comes from home controller, random comes from action result. Perfect. Alright guys, I'm going to finish this lesson. I assume you understand everything about routing. Next lesson will be about how we can add custom route handler. Okay, if you have any question, do not hesitate, drop comment below the video. If you like the video, I will be really appreciated as it really motivates me to create new contents. Take care of yourself. See you on next lesson.